how's it going? So, it's kind of cool that we ran into each other. Anyway, look, you know, I don't like small talk, but I can tell that something's really bugging you. I know it's been a while since we last hung out, but you know, I can kind of read you more than most people can. It's not a bad thing. So, I don't know if you know this, but I have recently been studying to become a therapist. Yeah. Life on the road is fun, but I thought I would try something else. Besides, I can always go back to being a rock star if I feel like it, right? But I really want to help people, and I want to help you. Because I don't want you to waste another moment of your life not being happy. I know we can't be happy all the time, but keep your head up. I want you to be more happy more often. So, I'm going to talk to you and I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I want you to just relax. You know, I won't judge you. You know, you've told me things before and I've kept them confidential. I know I've told you a few things before, and I trust you enough not to betray my confidence, so I'm not gonna judge you. And like I said, I already kind of know you, so don't be afraid of surprising me. You would be surprised at how hard it is to surprise me. Now, these questions that I ask you, keep in mind that it is possible that there's a wrong answer, but there will only be a wrong answer if you're not being honest. So, if you can be honest and be transparent with me, then that'll lead us to where we need to go. Can you do that? And don't be afraid of sounding irrational or immature when I ask you how you feel about something. You're a professional, mature, and sophisticated individual, and I actually think pretty highly of you. And I don't say that about just anyone. I don't think highly of most people, but I can see something in you that I don't see in everyone. And I really respect that. And so I want you to respect me by being honest and not being afraid to let me know whatever your first instinct or feeling is on a question. Alright, let's start from the beginning. Now, I know we know each other, but I'm going to go back to basics and then we're going to take it from there. So, humor me, if you will. Now, what kind of kid were you? Tell me a little bit about your childhood. Okay? Now, let me ask you this. Think back to before you were a teenager. Did you like who you were at the time? Did your 10-year-old self like your 10-year-old self, or did you ever feel inferior? Tell me a little bit more about that. Yeah, I understand. That makes sense. Now let's do the same thing, except when you were a teenager, 15, 16 years old or so. Answer that same question. Did your teenage self like your teenage, like who you were at that time? Did you have self-esteem, self-respect? Okay. Yeah, I get it. Okay. Now I'm gonna ask you about your present day self, who you are now, but before I do that, yourself right now, when you think back to who you were as a kid and who you were as a teenager, does your current self like who you were back then? Do you see it differently now from a more grown-up perspective? Okay. It's okay. Do you like who you are now? Why? And why is that? Okay, let's take that one level deeper. Tell me why. Why is what you just told me what you just told me? Embarrassed. Yeah. I understand that. I understand completely. I know something's troubling you now, and we're gonna get there, don't worry. But before we jump in there, if your current day self, your present self, who you are right now, if you could talk to your younger self, I want you to think of a few things you would say to your younger self. Big things, little things. You know, don't be afraid of thinking about something seemingly minor, because sometimes it's the little or the seemingly minor or insignificant things that sometimes are the most revealing and hold the most significance. You have a few things that you've thought of that you would say to your younger self. Okay? Now I want you to pick one or two of those things, even if it's just at random. What would you, who you are right now, say to your younger self? Why would you say that? Okay. You know what I think? I think that shows that you've grown a lot over the years. Your mind has changed. So, proud of you for that. You know, what's obvious to us now wasn't always obvious to us when we were younger. And 10 years from now, there'll be things that are apparent to us that weren't apparent to us now. And the fact that it's so obvious means that you've grown. Yeah, Pint, you've grown. You've matured. So good job. I'm proud of you. Now, tell me a little bit about yourself now. Pretend that I'm a stranger interviewing you, if you will, and just Tell me a little bit about yourself, even if you think it's something I already know. Nothing too big or too small. Just whatever comes to mind. Come to mind. What would you say? Okay. That thought right there. Why do you say that? Okay. Put that thought on hold for just a second. Now, like I said when we first ran into each other tonight, I can tell that something is troubling you and that you feel uneasy about something. Will you tell me what it is? Tell me a little bit about it. That's okay. I know it can feel overwhelming and that oftentimes our problems are complex and multi-layered, but just start with what's coming to your mind right now. What are you thinking right now about what's troubling you? Okay. I want you to take a second and just, I'm gonna listen and you explain it to me. Okay. I'm gonna let you talk for a minute, so go ahead. Okay. All right, on. Okay. Yeah. I get that. I get that. Trust me. I get it. Okay. And I know there's more to it than that, but you've told me a lot right there. Now, I want you to realize something. That the more fearful and worried you are about something, the less likely that you'll do well at something. So it's important to be relaxed and be at ease. Now I know that's easier said than done, but that problem that you just described to me just now, I know it comes along with other issues. If you could fix one thing, one of your issues right now, just even if you pick something at random, if I could just snap my fingers and fix it for you, what issue would you have to be resolved? Okay. You feel stuck? I understand what you mean. Now, if that issue could just be resolved and you could get what you want, that situation would turn itself around in your favor. How would that make you feel? Just, for starting, just whatever comes to your mind, like big or small, how would that make you feel? Okay? And that's important for you to feel like that. Tell me a little bit more about how it would make you feel. Elaborate, if you will. Okay. Now, taking a moment to reflect on not having that issue resolved, if that issue is not where you want it to be, if it is where it is right now, or if it was even worse, how does that make you feel, having it not be how you need it to be? Okay. Okay. Keep your head up. I understand. understand how you feel so small right now and so insignificant, but keep your head up because you have something in you that not everyone else has. Okay, so you're right here and you're looking over here. Now, how do you feel that we've acknowledged that and talked about that? Here's what I want you to do. Look, I'm going to be in town for a couple more days, so why don't we get together a few days from now and I can help you a little bit more with what we're talking about, but I don't want to do too much at once because I want you to be able to digest and process what we've been talking about, and we've just barely scratched the surface. And since I'm going to be in town, I want to revisit this in the future. Is that okay with you? Good. I have a homework assignment for you. I want you, for the next few days until we meet next time, I want you to, especially when you're thinking about or dealing with what we talked about tonight, your issues that you've been having, when something comes up that makes you feel a certain way, especially something that makes you feel good or bad, I want you to write that down just in a notebook. And it seems, I know at the time it seems obvious that you don't think you should have to write it down because you'll remember, but write it down anyway. Just do it anyway. Humor me. Even if it seems unnecessary, just write it down anyway. I want you to write down what happened that sparked you to feel good or bad. Even if it's because you were sitting there at night, couldn't sleep, and you were just thinking about it, just came up in your mind, or you had it on your mind all day and you just were thinking about it. Just do that a few times per day. If you do it every hour, every few hours, every so often, just write down what happened, what thought process you went to. It's important you make a note of your thought process and how it made you feel, and don't worry about something little making you feel irrationally sad or mad or happy. You feel the way you feel for a reason. And it's good to acknowledge how you feel. I'm not saying act on how you feel all the time. Sometimes we're so angry we could just scream, but that's not always appropriate. So acknowledge it to yourself and on paper, and when we get back together in a few days, we can go over that and take you to the next level. Stick with me and I'll teach you a few things. Till next time.